All right, I just want to mention that cyber competition teams are forming. I think the CPTC competition has pretty much filled up, although if you're experienced, you might try to email Liz and get on that one. The National Cyber League is available for anybody, but you have to sign up within the next week. That is easier. It's an individual competition, and it's more or less at the Security Plus level, as opposed to this, which is like a real pen test and more advanced. So sign up on this form if you want to be involved. That's worth extra credit, and it goes somewhat beyond the level of our classes, although NCL doesn't go too far beyond the level of our classes. As far as I know, I haven't tried it in a few years. Also, there is a competition going on called the Flare-On Challenge, which is very difficult. I wouldn't bother doing this unless you have taken malware analysis. But I found I could solve some of them this year. I solved the first two, and I'm making progress on number 3, which is much more than usual. The first one is the only one I can do. So I am forming a group to work on this together as part of my 126 class. So the details will be come to my 126 class if you want to do that. So anybody that joins us working together on this will not be eligible to win prizes because that's cheating. And besides, there's no chance of us winning anything anyway. I've never gotten even half the challenges, so we're nowhere near the end. But anyway, I will have Zoom sessions where we talk about how to do these challenges, although I can't release any public videos about how to solve them until it's over. Is it possible to get access to the Advanced Ethical Hacking CTF? Yeah, sure. I can do that. I'll get you the name and password. Just remind me later. Let me make a note here. Sure, you can get to the CTF, yeah. I'll find the name and password somewhere. Make a note. Yeah, I've got it. It's not like a big secret or anything. The only reason why I put a name and password on it is because it might have some stuff from students on there, just student scores and such. Nothing. At this point, it could probably just be wide open like my other ones, really. Maybe I should just take the password off it since that class hasn't been offered in a while. That'd probably be the thing to do. Anyway, so I mentioned those extra things, and now let's take a look at Lecture 5. So this is the kind of detective stuff you learn from watching TV shows. So as you know, undercover investigators are people that sneak into a gang by pretending to be a criminal, pretending to be some, and so that's one way to do it. That's of course highly risky and an advanced technique, not done except by experienced people. There are private investigators that do it, but certainly not something an average person should get involved in. However, normal things that normal people do is things like background checks, where you just Google people, you get an FBI background check to see if they have criminal convictions and things like that. Then some people do surveillance where you monitor what people are doing. As I mentioned, an awful lot of people are now doing online surveillance by putting malware on their students' laptops and surveillance software on people's laptops, and that can get you in legal trouble. And then there's sting operations where you actually tempt them to commit a crime, and they commit a crime. And there were some big cases that came out of this. There was a couple that tried to sell the medical information of American military to what they thought were Russians, but they were actually fake Russians. It was actually the FBI posing as Russians. So that's what happens a lot. It's a sting operation where you set up a crime and tempt people into committing the crime. All right. Anyway, so you can make a fake identity to do this. This is called the sock puppet, or an undercover identity, where just you appear to be someone different. There's plenty of people practice how to do this online. This person does not exist is one place where you'll find artificial intelligence generated pictures just by combining other features. So you have a profile picture that doesn't exist, and there's a bunch of other ways to set up fake accounts online. So you can make a bunch of email accounts at all different services. Mail-Expire, I think, is the same thing as Mailinator. Mailinator is a place to receive mail where you cannot send mail. You give it as an address. There's other ones that have temporary mails. All right, you can use online services to send SMS text messages without them having your phone number on them. You can conceal money transfers through PayPal or many other services that will redirect money through accounts so it's not obvious where money is coming from. And of course, VPNs and Tor are useful to conceal the IP address you're working from. And all these are useful both for investigations and also for incident response when you're trying to investigate someone that's attacking you and you don't want to let on that you have discovered the attack. You wouldn't want to connect from an IP address that's associated with the company they're attacking, that sort of thing. You can hide your telephone call information so that the call ID that appears is wrong. There's a bunch of these out there. And you can use proxies to conceal the identity of servers or clients. Move your web traffic through one of these, sort of like Tor, that make it difficult for someone to determine who is viewing a web page, or for that matter, who is hosting a web page. So anyway, law enforcement have these techniques to track criminals who try to evade investigations. And there are, by the way, if you're using a cryptocurrency scrambler, then there are ways to get around those to some extent. Using cryptocurrency, there's services that track the blockchain and try to de-anonymize transactions. All right. Now, law enforcement can get a wiretap order to record phone conversations, and there's rules on that. So, of course, if you're at work, monitoring what people do on the company laptop or on the company telephones is legal because that's company property. But if you're trying to collect what people do on their personal devices, then you need a law enforcement court order or their consent. All right, now there's the dark web. The real web, the web that you find by searching with Google, is only about 5% of the web. This just shocked me at first, and then I realized it's actually very simple. Most of the stuff that is not visible to Google is not like secret or criminal, really. It's just that it's behind a login. What about BYOD? Haha, very good question. J-Hoy, you can't, this is a huge problem. That's why when people started bringing in their own devices, at first the security teams and the legal teams said, no, you cannot do any company work on your own device. And it turned out that people really wanted to, and that was so useful that you had to let them do it. But if you do let them use their home device for company work, then there's a huge problem. When you try to do some kind of investigation, then it is just really hard to decide whether you're allowed to monitor it. It's a huge problem. I know what I'm doing for my consulting. One of my military jobs, they actually sent me a laptop, and I have to do everything on that laptop. Another one, they gave me a connection to a virtual cloud server on Azure, and everything stays on there. So those are modern ways to deal with this. The second one is much better. The company laptop is pretty slow and old. It forces you to go through a VPN that is pretty slow and buggy. It's pretty miserable. The cloud server is great. A good cloud server on Azure is nice and fast. That's actually nice. That's one good way to do it, to isolate the company stuff from the personal stuff. But if you just let people use their personal device directly to do company work, then you do create a tangled web, in addition to exposing the company to some risk of malware and such from that device that might have malware on it. Anyway, so the dark web is stuff you cannot find with a normal search engine, and most of it's just because you have to log in to see it. Like if you think about it, you can see the Gmail front page, but behind that, there's a whole ton of mail from everybody sending mail, and you can't see it without logging in. So it's not like it's a illegal secret or anything. It's just that a bunch of it is of limited access. So anyway, that's a thing to know. The dark web is everything you can't get through Google. Now this OSINT framework is really pretty interesting. I had not used this before. This helps you find resources. So let me see if I can zoom in. Yeah, I can. So if you want to find email addresses, see what they say. Here's email searches, mail blacklists of known bad addresses, and so on. All kinds of things. Searching for people. Digital currency caught my eye. You learn more about each one here. And there are chains. If you want threat intelligence, there's all these different companies that tell you information about people that are attacking you. If I look at tools, techniques, and procedures, here's some database in MITRE, yeah. Anyway, this is a very nice layout of where to look to find all kinds of information online. And this is open source intelligence, they call this. These are just searching publicly available resources. You can do an incredible amount of work just by looking at publicly available resources without getting a court order, without invading anybody's privacy. There's a ton of information just out there in the open. You can get more, of course, by getting a court order or by purchasing it from data brokers, but you can get an incredible amount this way, and that's why for the last several years, amateur sleuths on Reddit, Twitter have just gotten involved in investigating crime and security incidents, and often find things about people that even law enforcement can't find because they just have a bunch of enthusiastic amateurs. Tor is a pretty amazing product. Tor is developed by the U.S. military and really run by the U.S. military to a large extent, as far as I can tell, which is pretty hilarious because most people think by using Tor they're hiding their data from the U.S. government, but that's not really true at all. There are cases where they've shown the U.S. government can probably de-anonymize Tor to a large extent, especially now. And the reason it exists is because there is a secret military network that nobody can get on without being in the military that anonymizes traffic. And they said, what about our spies that are in other countries? We have spies in countries like Russia and Iran, and they're trying to send data back to us. But if they send data to the United States, they're going to get caught. So what we'll do is we'll put up a public anonymization network that everybody can use, and then our spies can hide behind all the traffic. So there'll be millions of people downloading porn and pirating movies through this anonymization network, and our spy traffic will get mixed in with all that. The stream is choppy. All right, yep, good. Let's see if other people are having trouble. Yep, okay, it seems to be random. Yeah, I'm afraid it's the United States backbone. Anyway, so Tor takes all your data and encrypts it and passes it to another node and there's a group of nodes that volunteer to be in Tor, and each one of them has encrypted traffic coming from other nodes. So your data gets scrambled 3 times and passed through 3 different nodes, so the source is concealed. Nobody can tell who is looking at a web page, and if you put a web server behind Tor, nobody can tell where that web server is, unless you have put an IP address on the page or something. So important things to understand is Tor does not encrypt your primary traffic. The place where your traffic enters Tor, the entrance node, and the place where it exits Tor, Tor does not add encryption to those steps. So if you use an unencrypted protocol and run it through Tor, you're exposing that unencrypted information to some people. Another issue is, like I say, a lot of the nodes are in fact run by the U.S. military. So the U.S. military and government can probably de-anonymize it with high probability. They control enough of the nodes that they might be able to catch all the hops. But anyway, another thing is it's often running pretty slowly because people keep using it for downloading movies and other high bandwidth things. Anyway, another thing. A lot of companies just block all the Tor exit nodes. It's pretty easy to find the Tor exit nodes and block them, and you probably want to, because in practice, although there might be some privacy enthusiasts that use Tor all the time, in fact, 99% or more of all the traffic on Tor is malicious. The only people that are using it are criminals. And by the way, I ran a Tor exit node for just a few days, and I found out what a lot of people found out. It is awful. If you run a Tor exit node, you will immediately be filled with DMCA takedown notices and other warnings. The fact is, most of the traffic on Tor is criminal, and most of it is appalling crime. It's child pornography, malware, and things like that. So MIT took down their Tor exit nodes. Over the last few years, almost all the sort of idealistic companies that were contributing to Tor have stopped contributing to Tor, because the fact is there are some people, trying to protest their government in Iran, which you might see as a good thing, but for every one of them, there's 100 other people downloading child porn or something. And I decided, like most people have, that it's not actually something I want to contribute to. But anyway, it's nice that it exists. It's an option, and it's a way to hide your identity. You just have to be aware of its limitations. Tails is a live Linux operating system that conceals your, that protects your anonymity, everything you. So nobody can find out where you are, and it uses Tor and other techniques. It's a Linux distribution just to make your laptop very, very untrackable. There's another one called the Invisible Internet Project, like Tor, which I have not used. Sounds like a similar thing. And then there's Freenet, which is the whole IRC network. IRC is the original chat network before there was the internet, before there was the web, when there was just the internet, you'd have Unix servers and people could just send text messages from one to another by sharing the same Unix servers. And they made a network of Unix servers that chose to join called Freenet, and there are others where you can just send text messages back and forth. And it was very popular. Now it's almost completely overrun with criminal activity. Is Tails like Tor? Tails uses Tor. Tails is a Linux distribution that uses Tor and many other products to be very, very anonymous. Good. All right. There's SecureDrop, which has come up because of Snowden. Snowden revealed a bunch of top secret military stuff, and he had a problem delivering it to the reporters. And he managed to eventually deliver it to some reporters, and those reporters became very famous, and their papers got very rich publishing the secrets. So after that, all the newspapers wanted to have ways to receive secrets. So one of them is SecureDrop. I know the Washington Post runs their own. I think many other people run their own, claiming that they will protect you. This is one of the things awful about WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks leaked information about their sources and got them in trouble. So that has happened before, too. So it is an issue. One important thing to realize, which may be common knowledge, but it's worth mentioning in case you don't know, is in America, a journalist does not have the right to protect their sources. If you are a journalist and you get secret information from somebody, you have the right to publish it, but the government can come to you and demand that you tell them who the source is. And if you refuse, they can throw you in prison. So the journalists have to be brave to protect their sources. That's why it's better for journalists if you use some kind of anonymous system like this where the journalist does not know who you are. Then, of course, you have a separate problem, which did happen with WikiLeaks. The first thing I thought of when I heard about it, you could just put disinformation in there to poison the well. And how would they know? You could send fake data up there since you're sending it anonymously and they never verify who you are. And so it's a problem, which is why a lot of people complain about anonymously sourced news articles. You don't know who did it. It could well be a malicious actor deliberately telling you lies. Yep, that's right. Snowden is now a Russian citizen. That's what his lawyer said. When he fled the country and ended up in Russia, they asked his lawyer, and his lawyer said, I hope he just stays in Russia, marries somebody there, and stays there forever because I do not want to defend him if he comes back to America because his legal situation is beyond salvation. He absolutely was under legal requirement to maintain confidentiality, and he absolutely violated that. He hasn't got a leg to stand on legally. His only hope is to become popular and get a pardon from the president, and none of the presidents have had much interest in doing that, so staying in Russia is probably his best move. Then there's dark web. The dark web behind Tor is where the internet is completely outside all regulation largely, and so that's where the really horrible stuff is. Child pornography, malware, stolen data, people you can buy illegal drugs from, murder for hire, guns, just everything. And that's Silk Road was the first one there. A dark web marketplace, then there was Silk Road 2. It keeps on popping up. They keep on bringing them down. Now, you would think, hiding behind Tor, they're completely untouchable. But, of course, as I mentioned, the government can de-anonymize Tor if they really want to, although that's not how they brought these people down. They brought these people down by just having to make mistakes. And one thing that's interesting is even if your server's hidden behind Tor and you cannot find even what country it's in, if it has a flaw in their security, you can hack into it and put malware on it, and then you can have the malware phone home so you find out where it is. And that's what the FBI did to Playpen. Yes, the dark web depends on Tor, and there's no other way to access it. That's correct. Well, not the whole dark web. I mean, to be fair, the dark web just refers to everything that you can't pick up in a browser. But in particular, what most people mean by it is the web behind Tor, which is the part where the servers are hidden and you can't even tell what country they're in. So they can now break international laws like terrorism and child porn. And so Playpen was the one of the big child pornography marketplaces on the dark web. And the FBI found a vulnerability in the server and put malware on the server, took over the web page, and put a notice on there saying, in order to keep using it, download this new version of a browser. And so they got the customers of this child porn marketplace to download the poison browser, which would then report their information to the FBI. That was their technique. They eventually, however, dismissed the case rather than disclose their secret methods they used here. Also, Anonymous had been there before them, hacking the people the same way. So there was probably going to be some issue of whether the evidence had been contaminated. Anyway, it is an issue. If you think that you are able to hide through one of these services and hide what you're doing online, in fact, very few people are able to do that. The only person I know who have successfully hidden online is the Jester, an internet vigilante. Almost everybody else gets caught because they make stupid mistakes. Like they use the same username that they've used somewhere else. They use the same email address they've used somewhere else. They put up a picture of someplace near their house where people can track them down. It is extremely hard to really hide your identity. And normal people always make mistakes, and it's pretty easy to catch them. All right, here's Operation Bayonet was another one. With Europol shutting down some marketplaces. All right. And then, of course, there's virtual currencies. Now, about a long time ago, like I think back in the 20s and 30s, America actually was on the gold standard. We actually had gold coins made of gold, and the gold was valuable. Oh, the Jester. Well, nobody knows who the Jester is. That's the point. The Jester is a guy that about 10 years ago started taking down web servers with DDoS attacks on the internet. And he had a variety of technically interesting DOS attacks he used at the time. And he would take down servers of people he regarded as enemies of either the U.S. or Britain. He's widely regarded as either an American ex-military or a British ex-military. He would take down, he would DDoS like Iranian websites during, I think, the second Iraq War. Iraqi or Iranian websites. And he would attack a lot of people, including politicians he disagreed with in America and all kinds of people. He's done a lot of nuisance attacks, and he's still around, and he's never been caught. He claims to be ex-military, and he claims to know how to really hide himself and really remain disciplined. So he always separates the machine he uses for crime from the machines he uses otherwise. And apparently that's true, because people have been hunting for him for 10 years and nobody can find him. The other important thing is he has no partners. He's very hard to deal with. He threatened to kill me, so I blocked him. He's mean and hostile to everybody, so he has no friends, which is really important. That's typically how they catch hackers, is they join a gang and your friends betray you. And he has no friends, which is another. I was interested in him at first in 2012 because his DDoS attacks were interesting, and so I gave some talks mentioning him and mentioned his techniques. And then but then he put up a server to attract teenagers to join his army and began acting like him. And I said, this is really too dangerous what you're doing to attract teenagers. And that's when he said, I'll end you. How dare you criticize me and stuff. He was very crazy. It seems like it's either a group of several people with different personalities, or my impression is he's just an alcoholic and he's getting more drunk and belligerent in the time you're chatting with him. Because he starts friendly and then he gets crazy and then he starts raving and starts insulting everybody. He's a pretty unstable guy. But he has managed to hide his identity, which almost nobody can do for years. If you do something that makes people really mad at you, they can find you, almost always, but nobody ever found the Jester. Anyway. He even went to DEF CON one time and posted photographs of him in the talk taken from participants at the con. So I don't know if he was having somebody else do that or what, but nobody caught him. Anyway, so we used to be on the gold standard where you'd have a gold coin and a silver coin, and it's actually got intrinsic value and you can sell the gold. But then this turned out to be a problem for the government because they could not control the money supply. It was just controlled by how much gold you dig out of the ground. So we switched to the current system of fiat currency, which is what everybody uses. So the U.S. government prints these things called dollars, and they have no intrinsic value. The government says they have value, and the actual value is held up by our legal, military, and political structure. What you're really sort of getting is like stock in the United States. So if the government fell in the United States, those dollars would be worthless. But since the government in the United States is considered very strong and powerful, then the dollar is considered valuable. And the same thing for the euro and the pound and the yen and everything. And so that's the fiat currency system. Now, a bunch of people, libertarians largely, say that they really should be on the gold standard, and this is a terrible thing, and the way the government can just print money is bad, although it's gotten us this far. And so they wanted to form an alternative system, and that's why they invented Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency constructed on a blockchain with mathematics, and it's going in all the details in the crypto class, but the point is there's only so many Bitcoins. There will never be more, and it's controlled by a system called proof of work, which uses an enormous amount of computing power, but has proven to be very secure. So there's no way to cheat and forge them or anything. So it's like gold in that regard. That's an alternative. They call this a hard currency, and fiat currency is a soft currency. The government can just devalue it. They can just print more paper. They can just print more of it at any time. It's under control of a government. So anyway, yep. So anyway, that's the joy of Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin works with miners. There are computers trying to mine blocks of Bitcoin for a reward, and that's what all the power is being consumed by, all these miners. And the fact that a whole bunch of miners are trying to do it really fast means it consumes an incredible amount of power, but it also means that cheating the system would require a very fast computer, and that computer would make more money by just mining. And this has secured Bitcoin. There have been no significant hacks against the Bitcoin protocol in all the years it's been around, which is since 2008, so getting around 14 years. So anyway, that's what's going on here. That's the joy of Bitcoin. And the other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum and Dogecoin and stuff are all imitations of Bitcoin with their own features. And the big news this month, is that Ethereum finally ended proof of work and switched to a different system called proof of stake, which uses a lot less electricity. It also might be less secure, and we're going to find out. If Ethereum gets hacked, then that will be a black eye for the proof of stake system. We're going to see. Anyway, all right, so on the web, if you try to see what websites, evidence from websites, you can look at a website, but people can change their website. So there are archives, like the Wayback Machine is one of them, that archives the way websites looked in the past. That's one way to do it. And there are statistics, too, at Netcraft and Alexa that just show you how many people have been going to a website, how long has it existed. There's also DNS historical records online, which are often quite useful. You can see what other domain names have been on this server and things like that. It can often help you connect businesses to other businesses. For example, most fraudsters that go online and sell some defective product or just pretend to sell a product and keep the money, they typically take it down and put up another server selling another product and another server selling another product, all on the same IP address. So you can often tell that this new crooked business was related to these 5 other crooked businesses by connecting them by their IP address. All right, so if you want to do background searches on people, you can find personal information, like name and address and things like that. There are a lot of online websites can do it. And of course, there's FBI background checks anybody can do to get their official arrest record. You can also, another big reason people do this is when you sue people, you first investigate to see how much money they have so you know how much to sue them for, see if they own a house or anything useful. That's a common thing, another form of search that's done. There's a lot of instant messenger clients out there, although I think everybody uses WeChat and the Facebook one, WhatsApp. WhatsApp is big, but there's a lot of older ones like Skype and such. And of course, we all know social media. There used to be this thing called dumpster diving, where you would go through somebody's trash to find out about them. This has pretty much gone extinct because of Facebook. All you have to do is go on Facebook, and you can usually find everything about people. And in Discord, of course. Discord is big. Discord, Telegram, Slack. Telegram really big right now because it's either Ukrainian or Russian, and it's got all the frontline information about the Ukrainian war right now. All right, so you can search website. Now, normally when you search on the web, you're only searching for content. You're going to see the words on the page, the images on the page, but you might want to search on metadata. And this is what Shodan does. It lets you search for the other information, like what version of software they're using, what version of hardware they're using, things like that. So that's also useful. That's metadata. And the same thing applies for routers. All right, so law enforcement has tried to share information across national boundaries. And so there are various organizations that do this to try to, the National Counterterrorism Center and so on, National Crime Information Center, that try to share data from law enforcement agencies. And the last meeting of the Secret Service I went to of the HTCIA, the High Tech Crime Investigators Association, they said they're actually having a lot of luck prosecuting people in other countries, like at that time, Russia. I kind of doubt we're going to get any cooperation out of Russia now, but a few years ago, they claim they're actually able to punish people in Russia sometimes, although it's quite limited what you can do in Russia. But with closer allied nations, you can often get cooperation. Anyway, so online crime is huge. Identity theft is huge, where somebody impersonates you to take out loans in your name or otherwise get your money. Buying credit cards, medical records, which are considered more valuable than SSNs. I'm not entirely sure how you turn a medical record into money, but I know people do sell them for money, so there must be some way to turn it into money. There are ways to try to limit the sale of banned technology to other nations. Although people try to evade it with cryptocurrency, this is why the current crackdown on cryptocurrency that's happening is really a big deal. The government would like to, for example, enforce their bans on sending money to banned nations, like the sanctions against Russia and North Korea and such. But if you're using cryptocurrency, you can evade those, but not if you're going through a regulated exchange like Coinbase. So as time goes on, the cryptocurrency will become just like normal banking, and it will be subject to the same rules as normal banking, and that's what's happening now. Then, of course, cyberbullying is a big thing online. And the big thing, I think the number one or number two crime stealing the most money from Americans now is romance scams. I mentioned this before. Many of my students have relatives that have fallen for this. Somebody contacts you online. They claim they're in love, but they need some money, or they have an investment they recommend, and you end up having your money go to this crook. This is huge, extremely effective. All right. So you can capture the online communication a lot of ways. You can do a screen capture. So if you do anything like I was considering in this CTF I'm going to do, I'm not supposed to post public videos, so I'm not going to use Twitch, because I looked into it, and there's really no way to stop you people from recording a Twitch stream, even if I wanted to. So I'll use Zoom, where it's a little bit easier to do that. Although, in principle, they could capture the screen anyway, right? They could just do a screenshot. There's no way to prevent someone from doing a screenshot on their machine, or for that matter, just pointing a camera at their computer and recording what happens. So there's a lot of ways to do this. You can also download video evidence from, even now YouTube tries to stop you. Yeah, I'm sure you can still capture it. Yeah, you can still capture it in various ways. Either YouTube tries to block you from downloading things, but there are YouTube downloading softwares that break through that. And there's a lot of other ways to do it. Ultimately, if you're viewing something on the web, that data is on your computer, and there are various ways to capture it. All right. So that's enough of that, and let's try a Kahoot. That's mod 5. Yeah, good. Okay. Yeah, that's the thing. Anything that's on your computer is not really protected from people capturing it. That's why I think Snapchat is the one. I'm not sure. There's one where supposedly a picture vanishes after a few minutes, but somebody could make a screenshot in that time period. So there really is no way to deliver something to somebody and be sure that they aren't making a copy of it. That's correct. Who says Snapchat itself isn't making a copy? A very good point. You don't know that they aren't. So, I'm just doing a capture the flag competition where if your security is violated, it's not a big deal. But if you have something with real consequences, you'd have to be a lot more careful. All right. Now I can go up to 50. They actually limited me to 10 players, so I paid them some money. Now I'm got up to 50. Yeah, that's why it's pretty funny. People say emails, like the Secret Service, their SMS messages have supposedly been deleted from January 6th and can't be recovered, but that's not so clear. There are probably copies, and, you know. Now they're trying to demand the return of some classified emails from somebody, which I think Roger Stone or something, which makes no bloody sense at all, to ask someone to return an email as if then it's gone. All right. All right. So you catch a criminal in the act. That's a sting, where you set up a situation where you know you're going to catch them in the act. You might catch them in the act for surveillance or an undercover investigation, but a sting is the one that specifically tries to set up a situation where they will do something right while you're watching. All right, where are the onion addresses? Yep, Tor, all the addresses end in .onion as far as I know, although there was a malware that connected to some other kind of address, which they said was actually an onion address. So I think there might be some other extensions that go there. One thing is you might have a CNAME record that just redirects to another name. You could make any other name go to an onion address. But as far as I know, the native addresses of everything behind Tor end in .onion. There may be some other extensions now, but .onion is the only one I've ever seen used. All right, so which dark website distributed child porn? Yeah, that's Playpen. All right, where's the public record of cryptocurrency transactions? All right, that's what the blockchain is, just a record of all the transactions. All right. And I think I knew who Glow is from before. And that looks like real initials, so my grader will probably figure it out.